If anyone who wants a word about anything. It's good to see you all talking during the break, because the irony of it is you will learn as much, if not sometimes more, during the breaks, the lunch break, and certainly this evening in the somewhat cloudy, smoky bar and restaurant than perhaps you do during the day. All I'm here to do, hopefully, is set off a process within you to get your mind thinking about different ideas, opportunities, techniques, ways of doing things that you then may choose to adapt for a way that feels comfortable to yourself. So we got to the sheep effect, we covered that. Other things that go on in hypnosis is, if you like, well, you'll tie a psychology student up in knots just off this, because this is actually far deeper than they study the so-called thing we call hypnosis. Exhibitionists. It's positive and negative exhibitionists. In terms of a stage show, the positive ones are the ones that are prepared to make a dick of themselves. Jump around like a chicken, be Elvis Presley, be Madonna, whatever. The negative ones are the ones that want to come up, and every time you turn your back, when you're facing them, they're sat there like, out of it, but when you turn your back, they go. And the audience are laughing, you think you're going down really well, but in truth, the audience are laughing at you because you didn't realise that they're taking the piss. That's the negative side. In group sessions, your positive exhibitionist is the one who wants to draw that little bit more attention to themselves in front of the group. And, you know, when you ask the question at the beginning, you know, has anyone been hypnotised before? Somebody will go, stand up and go, well, actually, yes, and oh, it changed my life immensely, it's wonderful. And they'll start rambling on, you're going to try and shut them up, because they want to be the centre of attention for that moment in time. The negative one, well, it rarely happens in a group session, because, generally speaking, when they paid X amount of money to attend a group session, they don't tend to stand up right at the beginning and go, this doesn't fucking work, it's a con. Because obviously at that moment in time you've not done anything to prove to them it is a con. But that would be a negative exhibitionist in a group setting. That generally doesn't happen. Unless you're in kind of a sales company type environment, you'll have the know-it-all egotistical head of sales, who's probably the one who's got the fucking worst sales figures anyway and needs the help, going, well, actually, this is the best way of doing it. Well, if it's that good, why have you, paid me to be here to give you some other bullshit? So there's positive and negative exhibitionists. Now, there's ways to turn the positives into negatives. Why you'd want to do that, I don't know, but there's ways of turning the negatives into positives as well, which obviously we will cover over the weekend. Next key point, people hypnotise themselves. Well, a lot of the textbooks say all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. And essentially, yes, it is, because it's only whatever that particular person genuinely believes, thinks, desires, believes and expects it to be. And if we provide that for them, then they have a self-realisation that this is what they expected, so it is kind of self-hypnosis. It's a wonderful phrase, that law, as well, for covering yourself legally. You did it all yourself, so how can you sue me? Actually, I think that's where that comes from, because it is actually about psychologically and or physically, as you'll see over the weekend, manipulating people to do things that perhaps normally wouldn't do or weren't ready to do, but now, in a therapeutic context, want that excuse to be ready to do. Okay. Authority, figure and perception, we covered that with the metaphor of the doctor and that before, so I don't think I need to repeat that. Placebo effect, we covered that before. Monotony and repetition, preconceived ideas, what people expect it to be. I mean, in truth, on stage, quite often when I'm doing inductions on stage, I do the very quick, feet together, hands by your side, and I do the direct opposite of the black and white films. So in actual fact, it is actually bullshit, but in therapy they do kind of, throwing them on the floor and shouting at them might not be the best thing to do in the therapy room. The more relaxed, with every nice, gentle, deep breath that you take, every noise that you hear, the stereotypical, long, drawn-out, relaxing words is perhaps a bit more in keeping with what they may believe and expect. But if you do get somebody there who goes, oh, I was on holiday and oh, I couldn't afford it at the time, but I saw this stage hypnotist and he said he could help me with my problem, but I never got round to it. Then ask them, well, what did he do? And if they say, well, he took people and chucked them in a chair and they were out there, then do it that way, because that's their preconceived idea. Then it's okay to do it, because that's what they're expecting. But if they come in just for therapy and you suddenly go, head back, eyes closed, 3, 2, 1, you're falling to the floor. And they might kind of shit themselves and think they're in the wrong place. So a bit of common sense comes into this as well, you understand. It's just, yeah, common sense comes into it as well. It's all about what is your theatre, your arena. Is it a theatre in the conventional sense with an audience for a show? Is it a function room like this where you're doing a group therapy session, in which case you do get a bit more show busy. You get somebody up to the front and lay them out because it's such a wonderful convincer for everyone else then, and makes it a bit more entertaining and justifies why you've got so many people in the room paying whatever it is you've chosen to charge them. But one-to-one therapy, do it a little bit differently. Demanding and commanding voice. Why do they call them hypnotic commands? Because that's what they are. You command people to do things. Quite often, some therapists miss at that point. They read books where it says, suggest to your clients that they may do X, Y, Z. Fuck off, they're paying you to achieve X, Y, Z for them. That's what their preconceived idea is. They're paying you to wave a magic wand. So surely your responsibility is to apparently wave that magic wand for them, right? Okay? So it's not to go, you may find, possibly, if you want to, that you could perhaps... No, it's, when I awaken you every morning, you will awaken with an inner warm glow of confidence, a renewed optimism to life, a more positive attitude to get things done. You will find that. You will do this. You will. You command them. So there is no possible misunderstanding. You are saying this will happen. That is why they're called hypnotic commands, and that's what they're paying you money for, the preconceived idea. Most people that come for weight loss, for example, I mean, it's fucking impossible, but most people who come for weight loss think you can zonk them out and they're suddenly going to walk out the office 2 stone lighter. It's sad, but you must have had it, lots of you. And you actually have to explain to them that it does take a bit of time to lose that weight. You know, common sense is not actually that common, and you'll have all had examples of that every day with clients. Another thing, party time, DJ example. Right, yeah, this is more applicable to stage shows, but it also ties in with authority figures. If a police officer was to walk into this room here now, walk to the front, take out the handcuffs, or these days the bloody taser, stun gun, or whatever, I'm fairly confident that nobody in this room would say fucking anything. You'd sit there and think, what's going on? Because we don't speak back to police officers, because then we could get done for, you know, obstructing a police officer. It's a preconceived idea, it's an authority figure. Stage hypnotist, what do you do on stage as an hypnotist? Fuck all, really. Right? No, you do. I mean, I'm oversimplifying things a bit, but the irony of it is actually simple. But if you look at it, what you do is you get volunteers to come up. You tell them to react in a certain manner, so it ends up looking like they're in some magical trance state. Then you tell them that in a few moments' time, when you hear this piece of music, and you play a snippet of music, Madonna or whatever, when you hear that in a few moments' time, you'll come to the shocking realisation, you make it sound all exciting, the shocking realisation you are the world's greatest Madonna impersonator, and every nerve fibre tissue in your body, you will be Madonna, but the moment the music stops, you'll wonder what the hell you've been doing. Let's decipher this. What you said to them is, in a minute, when you hear this bit of music, and you play a bit of it, so they know when to react, you're going to jump around and act a bit daft, so it looks like you're becoming Madonna. And when I stop the music, I want you to look a bit like, ooh, what's going on? For the phrase, you wonder what the hell you've been doing. You've told them exactly what to fucking do. So the irony of it is, you break it down, why is it bloody impressive? It's not. When you break it down, why do people bloody pay to watch it and go, oh, that's amazing, she's jumping around like Madonna? Well, yeah, because you fucking told them to, right in front of the audience's face, but you phrased it in such a way the audience don't realise that you've told them exactly how to react. And DJs do this all the time. A DJ doesn't conventionally go, okay everyone in the nightclub, boogie on down and put your hands out in front of you, interlock your fingers. They don't go through a fucking suggestibility test and induction. No. But I'll tell you what, they put on a certain track of music say, come on, the first 20 people on the dance floor get 2 for the price of 1 at the bar, and everyone fucking rushes on like a dickhead. Is that not the same as hypnosis? Or this thing that we call hypnosis? Conditioned responses? People's reactions to things in everyday life? It's just taking it out of one context and using it to our advantage in another. You know, in actual fact, lots of us, even people that are not in so-called hypnosis, are actually very good hypnotists. It's just that they don't know that that's what they're doing, or that they could use those same skills in a different arena under a different title for a different or same end result. And ultimately, certainly on stage anyway, and to a greater or lesser extent in therapy, generally in terms of clients coming to you one-to-one or paying for a ticket for a group session, it all comes down to cooperation. Hypnosis is cooperation, not confrontation. And it's kind of, it's an unspoken law of logic that if they're paying money to come to you and asking you to help them with the problem, that they're going to cooperate. Having said that, I'm sure some of you have had the experience of the person you say, you know, put your hands on your lap or whatever way you do it, look at the light, and they're looking over there. Now, I don't know if that's because they're fucking brain dead or what, but some people don't react the way you just have to kind of persevere. That does happen, but generally speaking, it's cooperation. Certainly on stages, you can coerce them and manipulate, but if they don't want to do it, at the end of the day, they're not going to do it. Simple as that. Otherwise, you know, Mr. Bank Manager, give me all the fucking money. I wouldn't be stood here today. If it was possible, trust me. And if anyone knows a way of doing that, then why the fuck are you here this weekend? And I'd dearly love to know how to do it. Hypnosis is also imagination, not humiliation. That's just a nice buzz phrase, really. It's actually a lie. Because on stage, it is about humiliating people. Because if you didn't humiliate them, let's be honest, it wouldn't be entertaining to the audience, would it? Fundamentally flawed, that. But certainly in therapy, groups, or one-to-one, it's about the wonderful power of your personal neck-top computer. Whatever. Right. On stage, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1. Am I still in the land of being heard?
Hey.
Can I be heard? No, I've unplugged myself. Wonderful. On stage especially, one volunteer is worth 100 press men. These are just little key phrases for you to remember easily. That's better. Back in the land of living. One volunteer is worth 100 press men. What this means is, somebody who voluntarily wants to do something, and generally speaking in therapy, they do want to, otherwise they won't be there. It's not always the case with things like smoking. They might be getting pestered off the wife. Oh, you want to stop smoking or you drink too much. Motivation's not there then. But generally speaking, when they volunteer to do something, it's far more likely to happen. Certainly with a stage show, that's why you don't go, and in a few moments' time, I'd like the first 20 of you in the audience who really don't want to take part tonight to stand up and come this way. You don't do that. You'd be wasting your time. You know, I'm looking for volunteers who are up for a laugh with the idea of letting themselves go, relaxing and giving it a try. So, I need these chairs full right now. Make your way towards the stage if you want to be the star of this evening's show. And you're buttering them up and flattery, using their ego. Flattery will get you everywhere. We covered that before, ego strengthening. Very, very important. Don't underestimate the power of bullshit. You can slide a lot further on shit than you ever will on gravel. Trust me. It sounds like a joke, but it's true. Okay. The higher your fee, or the higher the perceived value, i.e. what you charge, the bigger their desire will be for it to work. Again, this is stereotypical psychology, but it is very importantly at the root of everything that we do, because as the weekend goes on, and certainly after lunch when I start getting you guys and girls up here and physically demoing stuff and showing it. Everything that I've told you this morning, I will be using against you. I'm being honest and telling you up front. In the real world, you wouldn't tell your punters, your clients, whatever, up front. But I'm still going to use everything I've told you against you and make it work. But it is a damn sight easier to make it work when the people don't know the broken down steps. Unfortunately, for you to get the best out of this weekend, you would think logically, well, do the demos first, then break it down. But sadly, you'll learn more if I break it down, then do the demos. It just makes my job harder after lunch, but don't worry about it. Right, stereotypically, when you're doing inductions, these are key points. Some books get it right, some get it wrong. I mean, it's down to personal choice at the end of the day, but I'm a lazy sod, and I like as many things stacked in favour of success as possible. I actually don't know why Mr. McKenna does it, but when he does his therapy on TV, I've noticed he actually said, I'm going to count from 1 to 10 and you'll find you relax more. And he's going up in the numbers. Now to me, that's a non-verbal, there's a paradox, of waking up. I prefer to stack the law of averages in my favour, and when we're getting them to go to sleep or relax, all the numbers go backwards, so I'll count backwards from 10 down to 1. Because remember the phrase, put the baby down to bed. That'll remind you, put the baby down to bed. Why? To go to sleep. So when you're putting people to sleep, so to speak, your numbers go downwards. I'll count backwards from 10 down to 1, or 3 down to 1, or whatever. And with each number we count backwards. Backwards, down, deeper. They're all words suggesting down. And your voice tone becomes lower, because with each number we count backwards. You'll find you relax more, and the words become more drawn out, and everything's pointing down. Voice tone, inflection, body language even. When I'm doing it on stage, I'll find that I go, nice deep breath in, and then out as you relax more. Because it just, doing it, the physical action actually helps you make that voice tone naturally yourself, in a way that's right for you. When you're waking them up, I'm going to count from 1 to 10, 1 to 5, or whatever. The numbers go upwards, because you wake up in the morning. And your voice tone goes upwards, and it becomes higher. So it's, you know, I'm going to count from 1 to 10. On the count of 10, you'll instantly be wide awake, you'll feel better than you did before. 1, 2, 3, lighter and brighter. 4, 5, 6, feeling refreshed. 7, 8, 9, and on 10, wakey, wakey, rise and shine. You're building up to a peak, going upwards. Up, down. And that's actually probably the simplest explanation of how to hypnotise somebody you'll ever get, because that's all it comes down to, preconceived ideas. Mirroring and matching. Talk about it in body language, we talk about it in NLP. Right, well, mirroring and matching. Do exactly what the body language book says. Oh yeah, do exactly what the NLP courses say. Go to your, well, that same night when you're at the karaoke bar to examine and look at the guy who's going to put his slip in and then pretend, who put that in. Also, try this out. Make sure you've got a few days off work though, because you're likely to get hit. You're going to sit there and mirror and match somebody's body language. If you go by the book, if somebody does that, you're supposed to do that in conversation. There's nothing more fucking annoying. There's nothing more likely to draw attention to you and get you a smack in the mouth than mirroring and matching. Right? It is a little bit tiny useful, but more, I would say, in a verbal manner. Yes, if you're doing an induction and you wanted to do, shall we say, a non-verbal induction, or you just particularly want to say you're some kind of Ericksonian therapist, you might sit opposite them and start to match their breathing patterns. I mean, when I'm doing inductions, you'll see I do start doing, take a nice deep breath in, and I do it as well. That's so that they can hear it and they feel like I'm taking part as well. But I don't literally stand there and, you know, at the same time they're falling back to the floor, fall as well. You know, there's extremes. Some of the books just fucking, they miss the point. If you want a good smack in the face on your karaoke night out, start mirroring and matching people. You're guaranteed to get your head kicked in. But you'll learn the lesson, which is, don't do it. Right, Mind focused on one thing equals hypnosis, but when your mind's focused on one thing to the exclusion of everything else, that's one way of defining allegedly what hypnosis is. Well, an example of that is you're doing the DIY, you put down the Stanley knife, the drill or whatever you're using, you go into the kitchen to make a brew and you go, bloody hell, and you notice you've like nearly sliced the top of your thumb off. And up to that point you hadn't felt any pain, you hadn't even realised you'd done it, because your mind was on the job in hand. Now the moment your mind goes to that, you suddenly start sending negative, cut myself, pain, pain, and you're like, oh, fuck, it hurts. Because you've then sent yourself a different message. But your mind was focused on one thing, and that's why you didn't feel it. If you've got a sore leg, I'm not suggesting, this is metaphorical, some of this, please, I hope you're intelligent enough to... But if you've got a knife and purposely stabbed your arm, I'm telling you now, you'd forget about the leg. Because you can only feel pain in one place properly at once. Your mind can only really focus on one thing properly. It can get distracted by other things, which we book to use with the induction methods that we'll be covering after lunch. Distraction can come in, but if that distraction is also aimed at the same end result of, for example, getting the person laid out on the floor so they come to believe they're hypnotised or zonked out on the chair or whatever, then although it's a distraction, it becomes confusion because you're saying the same thing but in a different way. Relaxation leads you to a loss of inhibitions. Yeah, it does, so does a lot of alcohol. Which does, no, stage hypnosis shows that's actually not important, because you will have shows perhaps where they're not drinking alcohol at all. But you will find that if somebody's had a few, they're more likely to let themselves go a bit. So don't be scared of, you know, a lot of people go, if they're going to do a show, oh, blimey, shouldn't have alcohol there, bollocks, makes it easy. Therapy-wise, well, I suppose alcohol is only going to come into it if they're an alcoholic. So that really doesn't matter on that one. Right, NLP. Future pacing, something we talk about in NLP. Instilling what you expect to occur. And that's what you, as the therapist, are transmitting you expect to occur. Which obviously is based on what the client has told you they want to achieve. That is what leads you to giving out the terminology that instills what you expect. So, for example, we'll take smoking as an example. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. It's the same horse, different colour, different way of using it. Take smoking as an example. The moment that person comes into your consulting room, the moment they have paid you the money, which you get up front, I generally say, you know, it's a bit like going to a gypsy fortune teller and they say, cross my pound with silver. So that'd be £250, please. Do it with a smile on your face and don't feel like you're robbing them then. But once you've got that money and they made that commitment, from that moment they hand you that money, they are a non-smoker. Everything you say and everything you do must be structured so that the expectation you're giving out and the belief you're giving out is that they have stopped. So when you're asking them the questions in advance, you go, before you came here today, how many did you used to smoke? Which is implying that they don't anymore, and you've not even done the session yet. How many did you used to smoke? Or what foods was it that you used to eat that you feel you don't want to, you know? What did you do in the past? How was it like previously? Implying it's already changed. And when you get them under, the suggestions you come up with, which we'll cover that obviously at a later stage, are also geared as though it's already happened. So from this moment forward, you will continue to be, not you have become a non-smoker, you will continue to be a confident, happy, healthy, relaxed non-smoker. Continue to be implies that they've already made this change. And technically speaking, they have, because they've had to make the appointment and show up. So they've been thinking about it before, which psychologically is building them up, their expectation. When they pay you, they're instilling that expectation and belief into themselves, that this will work, otherwise why would they pay you? So then you need to say everything in a manner whereby you're leaving them no doubt in their minds that you're certain this has worked. because then they will come to believe that it has. And the moment they believe it has, because it is literally just about a change of mind. Music helps set the mood. Okay, on stage we might use dramatic sounding music at the start because it's all show busy and razzmatazz. In therapy, I mean, it doesn't matter what music you use, that's personal choice, but I find in therapy the typical arty-farty, winky-wanky, new age, flipping fluty, pan-pipey, watery, folly type, flowery music works because that's the stereotypical thing people kind of expect. But for some people that's fucking annoying and they don't like it. Well, I'm one of those, I don't like it, I'll just go through with it. What is also very useful if you want to, and this is a little tip, let the client bring, if they're coming to an office, assumedly, this is only any good for one-to-one because otherwise, you know, in a group session it might get a bit problematic, this one, as you'll see. Ask them to bring their favourite CD with them. Their favourite music CD. Doesn't matter whether it's instrumental, got singing on it, doesn't matter if it's, you know, fucking Eminem, Smack My Bitch Up, Prodigy. It doesn't matter what it is. And you might think, well, hang on, it's going to be a bit bizarre going on as you relax more, and in the background you've got Smack Me Bitch Up, motherfucker. But this is the irony. If that is what they chose as their favourite track of music that they normally listen to relax, then the irony of it is that whatever the words are, whatever it is, they are more likely to go into a relaxed state listening to it. Because it's already a Pavlov's dog, ding ding bell, salivation, conditioned response. So, if you're not easily offended and you don't mind the odd bit of smack your bitch up, and then next session it might be Elton John, and then you know, you might have something actually musical along the way. Ooh, that wasn't nice, sorry Elton. Then that will actually help the client more because they've already got a conditioned response to that music. So use what is already, the work's been done for you on that, they've already got a conditioned response. But be very clear that you say, bring your favourite CD that you listen to relax, and not leave it open to them to interpret the one they listen to when they're shagging or doing some other recreational activity. I mean, you narrow it down to the one they've got the correct conditioned response for. Because then half your job's done. And it makes it more personalised to them. And in its own way, they'll be then focusing on the music. The irony of it is they probably know the words. But in between that, they're trying to listen to you. So this is going to become confusing and disorientate them, which will become more clear as the day comes on, which means they'll get brain overload, and they probably will go to normal sleep, because the brain won't be able to take it. Which is good, because then at the end of the session, when you have to wake them up, they think they blacked out, so something magical's took place, which means you must be a powerful hypnotist, so therefore what you did is going to work for them. So music can be useful. On stage we use it ever so slightly differently, but yeah, let them bring their own music. Props. Well, we mentioned therapy before, like having the books on the shelf are props. The diplomas are props. The outfit you wear is props. Your business cards are prop. It's all a prop. The way you look, your words are a prop. But we can use props in other ways too, as you'll see over the weekend, even in therapy. You know, when I'm stopping somebody smoking, if it's a group session, I don't do it one-to-one, because one-to-one they're cured the moment they pay that money, how you used to be in the past. But in a group session, you go drag it out a bit and do something impressive. I'll get somebody up and give it the nice deep breath in and just sleep, relax deeper. When you wake up in a few moments' time, you'll find that the cigarette I give you will taste like burning horse manure running down your throat. It'll be absolutely horrible, but you'll be sick to your core, one till you're wide awake. And I get them to start spluttering. It makes everyone laugh a bit, relaxes them, and you back and sleep. See, that's how easy it is. It can be that easy for you, lot. You use it as a type of convincer. And there is a guaranteed way to make them choke on the cigarette, which, just in case I forget to tell you, I'll tell you now, because it is very useful if ever you do group sessions. If you wanted to be a nasty bastard, you could do it on a one-to-one, because you might get some perverse pleasure out of it. But they sell these machines, well, tobacconists have them, empty cigarette shells with a tip on, look like a normal filter tip cigarette, just like any conventional everyday. It's just that there's no tobacco in. And you can get a little machine where you put rolling tobacco in, put this little thing in, close the lid, go, and it comes out looking like that. Except it's got rolling tobacco in, but you can go out then and look posh, instead of paying $5.20 a pack at the machine. You can look posh, but actually you've got rolls. Now, if you fill one of them with pipe tobacco, it tastes fucking horrible, even to somebody who's smoked for years. And the beauty of it is you don't need to be a flipping, you don't need to be, you know, a David Blaine illusionist. Your pipe tobacco cigarette is in your pocket or in the drawer. Because remember, they'll have their eyes closed. And you say, when you wake up, I'd like you to take a cigarette out. 1, 2, lie away. And they take one out, so this is the client's cigarette. You then say, look at me, nice deep breath in, sleep, put them back out. All you blatantly got to do, take the cigarette off them and replace it with that one. And say, when I wake you in a few moments' time, it'll taste absolutely disgusting. It'll be a sign and a signal to you that does it taste like burning rubber, horrible. The worst cigarette that you've ever tasted is a sign and a signal to you that from this moment forward, you no longer need, want, crave or desire for cigarettes and tobacco in any way, shape or form. You wake them up, you immediately give them a light. They're not going to examine the side and notice it's a different brand, because they're in a semi-out-of-it state. Anyway, they light up. It tastes absolutely fucking horrible, which is what you just suggested to them it would be. And because it tastes horrible, they come to believe that's because you suggested it. So therefore, they will come to believe that everything else you suggested them will happen, because they've just physically felt something definitely happen to them. Bit of pipe tobacco and a little machine you can get for about £3 what they're selling in Asda Eden. And you get a bit of a perverse laugh seeing them choke away, because you know it's not suggestion, it's a trick. Yeah. On stage, props, obviously, are the sex toys or microphone or broom or whatever. You know, when you wake up, you'll find what's in your hand becomes your microphone and you're Elvis Presley, and you give them a broom to brush up, and then suddenly music starts and this automatically use it as a microphone, play around with it. It just makes it more visual to the audience, rather than everyone just doing stuff like, because when it comes down to it, all you're doing on a stage show is getting people to physically make movements or say things audibly in the context of something that then appears funny, where in reality, what's wonderful about saying to somebody, you know, when you wake up in a few months' time, you're Mr. Opposite. Everything I say to you, you'll believe the direct opposite. If I say this woman is beautiful, you think she's a pig monster. If I say, you know, and then, well, you've told them exactly, they're just going to say the opposite of what you say. So what actually, please enlighten me, I've made a career out of this, but what exactly is entertaining about them waking them up and saying, you see her in the audience? She's fit, isn't she? And he'll go, no. How's that entertaining? But everyone laughs, because apparently he's doing this against his will. He's under fucking... So the use of props really on stage is to make it look better than it is really. Because a trained chimpanzee can be a stage hypnotist. Might not be a very good one, but they can be. Right, words. Words are our most important tool as a hypnotist. As those of you who were here 3 weeks ago at my last seminar will know, it's a bit fucking difficult to hypnotise people when your voice nearly disappears. Not impossible, don't get me wrong, but makes it considerably more difficult. But paint a picture with your words. Paint a picture with your words. What do I mean by that? Well, we want to capture their imagination around an idea, because once their imagination is captured around it and takes this on board, whether it's on stage that they're going to be a star, or in therapy that they're going to feel better or not be scared of spiders anymore, whatever it is. Some people are very good at visualising images, mental images. Others aren't. In NLP, they have the representational system, they call it VAKOG, V-A-K-O-G, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory. Allegedly, we're mainly visual, auditory or kinesthetic. We either mainly say things, hear things, or see things, or react in that manner. Now, NLP teaches us lots of wonderful ways of finding out which system our client falls into. And if you want to learn them, they work. But A, you'll waste days learning them, and B, who gives a shit? All you need to say is something like, you know, everything I've said to you, you'll be able to taste, smell, see, feel and hear everything as if it was, always as if it was, 100% total reality. Now it doesn't matter whether they're visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory or gustatory, whether they taste, smell, see, feel or hear things as their main stimulus. You've covered them all, and they will attach themselves to the one that feels right for them. So why waste time finding out which one's right for them when for the far quicker you can get down to business and just throw it in. You know, you'll be able to taste, smell, see, feel and hear everything as 100%, as if it's 100%, as if. Never say it is, because then if they don't experience it in a manner that seems life-changing, they can't go, I suggested something and it didn't work. You want everything that you suggest for them to actually experience, because then they're getting further down this brainwashing path that everything else will work when they leave you. So it's as if. Now it's up to them what they make of that, in a way that feels right for you. Another lovely phrase, in a way that feels right for you. It's up to them. Make of it what they want. But whatever they make of it is what's right for them at that time. So you can only get a successful response. Right, yeah. Because some people aren't very good at imagining things. So another phrase I use, you know, sometimes during the session today, you may find I ask you to visualise things in your mind's eye. And if you're like me, make some feel-good ego, just in case they do fall into that category. If you're like me, you might find it hard to visualise things. So if I say imagine a television set, if you can't see it clearly in your mind's eye, don't worry. Just say the words to yourself in your mind, as though you're speaking to yourself. And that will still serve as a sign and a signal for X, Y, Z or whatever. Overcome problems before they become problems. Don't do a session and then have the client going, oh, well, I couldn't really visualise that well. Well, no, cover it in advance. Doesn't matter then. You've covered all bases, they'll make of it what they want. Okay, suggestions. All suggestions must be clear, concise, precise, and have only one possible meaning. They must also be direct to the point, so they can't be misunderstood. So that's why we call them hypnotic commands. So on stage, I wouldn't go up to somebody and say, could you please just sit in that chair? That's like asking nicely. It's a request. They might go, well, no, don't want it. No, it's more a case, Peter, come here, sir. Just sit down right there. You tell them exactly what to do. Perhaps not quite as forcefully as that in therapy, but you've got to be in control. So when you say take a nice deep breath in, if you don't see them going, say, come on now, do it for real, nice deep breath in, and close your eyes. No, I said close your eyes. And if it means going up to them and pushing their eyelids down, fucking do it. They'll soon get the idea. You're in control. But remember, that's what they're paying for. And a lot of people are shaky about touching people during therapy. There's a right way to do it, a wrong way to do it, obviously. But I'll leave that to your common sense. But if you warn people in advance that you're going to touch them, then touch is a powerful force in itself. So if you say, you know, in a few moments' time, I'm going to lift up your right arm. And when I do it, it's just a sign and a signal, as I drop it onto your lap, to relax more completely. You warned them in advance, so you go on 1, on 2, I'm just going to pick your arm up, so you remind them again. Nothing to panic about. And you're actually then building an embedded command that this is a sign and a signal for something else. So all your words weave together, so everything's powerful, rather than just reading a script that kills half an hour of the session before you do the bit that you think's worthwhile. Make everything stack in your favour of success. Okay. Inductions. After lunch, we will be getting people up, and we will be throwing you, some of you, on the floor. Warn you in advance. Not in a nasty way, you understand, but for educational reasons. But one of the easiest ways to do an induction for therapy anyway, stage, this would bore the shit out of people, but for therapy, remember RORL, rapport, observation, recognition, leadership. You look at your client, you ask them to close their eyes. You tell them to breathe deeply. You start your arty-farty, relax and all this. When you see their breathing change, which you can see because you're observing, then feed into your suggestion, and as your breathing becomes heavier, it's just a sign and a signal to relax more. But because you carry on talking onto other things, they don't have time to sit there and think, well, he saw that my breathing went deeper, that's why he said it. They just react and think, yeah, I am breathing deeper. So everything you're saying to them is actually their reality. The reason for this is not because you suggested it to them and it became their reality. It's because you didn't suggest it to them until it was already happening as their reality. Because you're observing what happens. If you suddenly see them, you know, their arm drops off their lap or something, or they lean to the side, you just take another nice, lovely breath, and you just let your heavy head fall to one side. They've actually done it a second before, but the mind doesn't compute that, because you're coming out with so many things in a row that they've never got time to think of one thing, so it becomes confusing. It becomes disorientation. So you're observing what's going on, you recognise what's happened, the head's gone down, whatever, and you take control. You become the leader. And you feed back to them what they've just done. So every single suggestion you give them, after the first, say, 10 seconds after telling them to close their eyes, is based on what you've observed them do. And then you feed it back to them. So the only reality they can have is, one of coming to the conclusion that when you suggest things to them, they happen. That's the way they perceive it. In truth, no, you've only suggested to them what you could see was happening, but they come to believe that you've suggested stuff and made it happen. And because they've genuinely then got an experience, they can tangibly think to themselves, stuff was suggested, I felt it. Stuff was suggested, I did it. How much easier is it for them to then think, suggested my life will get better, and they keep focused on that it will. It's the garden path, it's the brainwashing, it's the Pavlov's dog, it's conditioning. Excuse the drawings. They are a bit crap. Drawing is... It's not that I think old children are scary and that adults wear funny blue bow ties. It's just... Well, the pictures. Well, this is the way I explain the mind. What I'm going to tell you, elements of it are bullshit. Put that out of your mind for a minute. This is an analogy. A way to understand the best way to con your clients, shall we say. Or, sorry, help them achieve their aims. Okay. We've got the conscious mind, the subconscious mind. Allegedly, the front is the conscious, the back. Some say the subconscious. Actually, in psychology, that word does not exist. It's the unconscious mind, but in Hypno books, for some reason, they say subconscious, so if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. And the bit in the middle, they call the analytical area, or the critical faculty, depending on which book you read. Okay, layman's terms, my world, conscious mind is the adult, allegedly. The subconscious mind is the child. The bit in the middle is the gatekeeper, who keeps the child away from the adult, so the adult doesn't kick the shit out of the child for being annoying, and keeps the child away from the adult because the adult's a bit of a paedophile and fucking should be kept away from the child. You've probably not heard it described this way before, but it will make quite a lot more sense to you perhaps than normal. Now, in those formative years we talked about, you know, the magic birthday party years, 0 to 7, the things remain with us in our subconscious mind. We are the child, we're innocent, we don't really know what's going on, we're learning, everything's a learning experience. Our environment, what people say to us, this, that, the other. So the child becomes, apparently here, somewhat worried, but all these things are remembered, okay, and they remain there in the subconscious. Some of those things that get learnt along the way have a positive outcome. Some, unfortunately, have a negative outcome, generally how phobias get caused, okay. When we get, and this is stereotypically speaking, about 7 years of age, for some people it's bit later. It depends how traumatic events are. But then the gatekeeper gets employed, the job centre found some money, so they employ him. And in comes the gatekeeper and we'll lock all that stuff away now because you've got to start kind of thinking for yourself, consciously. Because you've learned quite a bit, now's your time to start doing it. Unfortunately, once the gatekeeper comes on duty, none of this stuff can get out of here. Stuff can get in if the gatekeeper chooses to let it pass, like the bouncer at the nightclub. Rights of admission refused, or reserved, even. So some of the things that happen every day, gatekeeper will go, yes, that fits with what I know from my environment of the past, I'll let that through, because it seems positive to me. And others will go, no, 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 no. Now quite often, if we use the example of, I don't know, why do I always come up with perverse samples? Unfortunately, I don't know, it's maybe the type of client I attract. I had a woman with, well, not a phobia, what do you call it, allergy of dairy products, milk and yogurt and stuff. It turned out to be a sexual abuse thing and there was a bit of a connection yourself. But the thing is, it was here. It'd been remembered, the traumatic event. That is where the pain was. So now, in everyday life, in the adult world, it was pleasurable to avoid anything that reminded her of that painful event. Because the gatekeeper wouldn't want to let it by. Otherwise, you're going to get a bit of a shock. You know, you try eating that dairy product, gatekeeper's going to go, well, hey, it's going to remind me of stuff, and it does. You get an allergy or a physical reaction. It's the body's way of saying, fucking, there's something to be looked at here. With hypnosis, I hate that word, but the tricks we're going to learn over the weekend, we can, if you like, slip the gatekeeper 50 quid to turn his back so he doesn't see us coming. So we can get into the club, even though we're tooled up with drugs and we're not supposed to be dealing drugs in there. So we can get into the club to beat the shit out of the kid and say, this is fucking out of order, this. Because that's what we're going to do. We're going to shut down with hypnosis, the gatekeeper, take him off duty, so that we can talk directly to the child and say, look, you're not fucking 7 anymore. It's not a problem. Just because Uncle Charlie spunked in your gob when you were a kid and he shouldn't have done it, doesn't mean that you can't have milk and dairy products now. You might do it in a better terminology than that, but you know, you get the essence of what I'm trying to say, hopefully. And then the kid goes, are you sure, are you sure? And you're like, yeah, I'm sure. And you waffle on and do whatever you're classing as your therapy for the next half hour, an hour, or whatever. At which point the kid's crapping themselves, so they're not going to let this happen again, if you've done your therapy right. So then you can slip past the gatekeeper, drop him another 20 quid off light, thanks for that, mate. And he goes back on duty. So that the child can't get back out, it's there because we're controlled by the subconscious. So now as Mr. Adult can suddenly start drinking the milk and not get the reaction, because the milk, the gatekeeper goes, child, I thought milk was out. No, it's right, we're all right now, sort of thing. Because the gatekeeper, although they're to protect, will only do that which is based on our previous experiences, thoughts, emotions, desires, environmental conditions, that which has gone before. Which is why which is what makes us, that's really the only thing that makes us different as human beings than animals. Because we do have different environmental upbringings, we do have different experiences, and they then mould the way we react in the future. So essentially it's using mind tricks, so-called inductions, stuff we'll be doing after lunch, up to the nightclub door, slip the money to the bouncer, sneak in, kick the shit out the kid, get back out again, close it up so it's now nice and safe, and that's what we're actually doing in a therapeutic context. In a stage hypnosis context, we're appealing to the inner child. You probably heard that phrase before, inner child therapy. We are all kids at heart. Some of us will admit it, some of us won't. But fellas that are into football, it gets fucking childish. World Cup, yeah, goal! And they're running up and kissing each other. That's the child within. Women, you know, you have your nights out with the girls, and I'm sorry, and this is not meant to be sexist, but You know, I'm sure there are very funny jokes amongst women on hen nights and stuff amongst yourselves, but to us men spying on you, you know, when you're out and about, it's like, hang on. If I told my missus a joke like that, she'd probably think I'd lost the plot. She wouldn't laugh, but you know, fucking laughing away at it. The child within, we kind of regress back to a comfortable place when we're in groups. That's why group psychology, group sessions are so much easier. So knowing that, you are essentially, every client that comes into your room, treating a child. And also knowing that, the irony of it is, it's not any more difficult to treat a child than it is an adult. The irony of it is, it's easier to treat a child successfully, because it's easier, certainly while there's still, you know, the job centre's not employed the gatekeeper yet. It's easier to get in there and give them a clip round the face, not for real, obviously. Because that door's not been locked yet. And that's why kids, you know, have imaginary friends. And they can already wrap their mind around ideas so well. Just unfortunate that we've become so-called adults, albeit we still have childlike minds, that we kind of unlearn that process. Probably we think it's best not to be sat at the bar at the pub talking to our imaginary friend, possibly. But it's sad but true. Most of your clients are still childlike in the mind. We all are, to a certain extent. We stop growing up in here at some point. That's different for everyone. I mean, you can meet some kids and you think, bloody hell, talks and acts like he's 83. They might be. Very old soul in a young body. But there comes a point, a cut-off point. So, I'm not saying, you know, every client who comes in, you go, oh, let's say, you know, sit down and get the rattle out. No. But in a non-overtly obvious way, treat them almost in a childlike manner. You do take control. You become the parent, almost. You tell them what to do, when to do it now, close your eyes, this will happen. But they're paying you for that. That's what they want. So, you know, it's not a control and domination thing. This is people actually want it. That's why people go back to church. You know, but less and less these days, but people do go back to churches on Sunday and put the money in the tin and sit there and get bored. Because they want to feel like, you know, handing control over to somebody else. And that's how I view the human mind, which isn't too far removed from what conventional psychology says, just a little bit. But remember that people are really kids within, and that's very important when you come to treating them. Right, just before we get to lunchtime, right, embedded commands, sub-vocals. Right, we were saying before, everything you say it in a manner as though it's already happened. You know, like, how many a day did you used to smoke in the past? You have now become a non-smoker, implying it's already happened. But you can also put embedded commands into your stuff. Now, an obvious example of that is with your induction. You know, I don't know if you want to go into a trance now or in a few moments' time, but go into a trance, you will all the same as you relax more. Now, I'm really emphasising the section there so you get the point. You wouldn't quite do it to that extreme level, but you just slightly emphasise the bit, so it just sounds like you're saying, I don't know if you want to go into a trance now or in a few moments' time. Well, go into a trance, you will. But you slightly emphasise the go into a trance, so it's repetition. And it's an embedded command which the brain consciously doesn't become aware of, but subconsciously, getting past the gatekeeper, is like, it's got two different meanings, that sentence. Do embedded commands work? Yeah, well, quick little story before lunch. The boy or girl running across the wall, going down the street, mum's talking to a friend, pushing the pram down the road, tracksuit bottoms on, council estate sort of thing. And suddenly turns and sees the child running across the wall and goes, "Oh, Mary, don't do that. Be careful, else you'll fall." What invariably happens a couple of seconds later, kid falls off the wall, starts crying. Then the mother picks him up and goes, "I told you you'd fall, you stupid." very nice conditioning. Yeah, lovely. Yeah, something happens to you, an accident, and then, which is the parent's fault for putting that embedded command in, suggesting that they will fall. You know? Yeah, we've just got time for that. I apologise in advance, ladies, but for those of you who have seen my DVDs, I do tend to quite often give sexual metaphors for training, because they do tend to stick in the mind a bit more when you've left the training event than a more conventional way. Now that I'm single again, I'll be using this again. Well, I've already planted the seed. A couple of pubs are going when I'm not working. And the past few times I've been in over the past week, I used this in the past, but now the wife's left me. Great, I can do it again without fear of getting my head kicked in. Every time you go in the bar, each day you go, oh, you're looking wonderful. Well, some nice comment, anything, makes them feel good. Just casual, not on a stalking level, just an occasional nice comment, makes them feel good. Until you decide that they've got a bit comfortable with you a few days down the line. So you're not the axe murderer from hell, you've been in there a few times, you look safe to them, you know what I mean? Yeah, well that's debatable. But anyway, you look allegedly safe to them. This is the day you're going to decide to really ramp it home and put that embedded command in. And this is what you're going to do in therapy to help people. It's just that here, it's a slightly smutty way of saying it. And I've just got time. So I'll go to her. Sitting there now for a few days. This is now Thursday. Pint of lager, please. Yeah, I'm one for yourself, love. And remind me, before I go, to bring me washing in tomorrow, if you would. If you just remind me, thanks. And walk away from the bar. You've now got her curious. What the fuck is he on about? Remind me to bring me washing in. But this is so weird that they'll wrap their mind around it. And they're thinking about you now. Step one, they're thinking about you. Next time you go to the bar, she'll probably say, what do you mean about washing? Or if she doesn't, you bring it up again and say, can you just, remind me before I go the washing. Okay? As the afternoon or evening goes on, at some point, she will ask you, curiosity, what the hell are you on about? Washing. At which point, trying to keep a straight face and making sure she hasn't got a glass in her hand at the time, you say, well, I think I should bring it in because, you can do it for me, you can do my washing for me. Now, most women then react, ooh, that's very sexist. No, I think it's only fair. And she'll be like, what the hell is he on about? And eventually they will ask the question, what are you on about? When they do, you say, well, if I tell you that, you promise you won't be offended, because I don't mean it offensively, it's actually a compliment, but the moment they agree that they won't be offended, then they can't hate you. They can't, seriously, they can't, just psychologically, they can't, because otherwise they're going to end up looking a twat and you're in a line. That is the point, once you've got that consent and cooperation. Notice how this is all tying back into what we covered this morning. Consent and cooperation. And expectancy, what the heck's he going to say? You say, well, I've been coming in here now for a few days, and each night at home I've been thinking about you so much that I've stained all my bedding. The mental image that conjures up, and guys, if you try it, it's a bit... You have to think of a way of rewording that, ladies, I don't know, but for guys, when you do it, you will see them turn bright red. You would assume that's embarrassment, but they will actually get warm inside, because you've in a nice way, in the nicest way possible, you said you've been wanking off over the past few days. But you've said it in an acceptable manner. In an acceptable manner. It's an embedded command. And the reaction it gets, because they've given you the consent, they've built up their curiosity, they've wrapped their imagination around an idea that was embedded in words, is, if you like, an instant straight in, past the gatekeeper. They suddenly, 9 times out of 10 you'll get your leg over. So no, seriously, try it. But the point is, it contains all of the stuff that is what we do as hypnotists. Phrasing it as though it's already happened, because that said that you've already been doing that. But in the onus of responsibility on them, well, I think you should, because it's all your fault. Because since I've seen it, you've got the consent and cooperation of them and an agreement, because they said, no, I promise I won't hit you, go on, tell me. Curiosity, fixation of attention, these are all the things. that we kind of call hypnosis.